The drought and subsequent famine in the Horn of Africa is making headlines around the world, and emergency relief efforts are on the increase. To find out about the Canadian Somali response, I spoke with Ahmed Hussein, president of the Canadian Somali Congress, earlier today. He joined us on the line from Toronto. Ahmed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the images and stories are horrifying. I can only imagine how much worse it must be for Somalis living here in Canada.
Yes, I mean it touches them very much, and it's the worst drought in 60 years, and famine is being declared now in 3 new regions as of yesterday in Somalia.
Tell me what's been organized in response to the need here.
There have been quite a number of events, fundraisers, activities, awareness projects. So to start with Ottawa, there was a huge barbecue in Macy Park last weekend in Ottawa, and young people in Ottawa were able to raise thousands of dollars from all Canadians from all walks of life. And they were also able to raise awareness through that public barbecue. There was also 3 barbecues organized that same weekend, last weekend, end of July, in Toronto. 3 separate barbecues in 3 parts of the city where most Somali Canadians live. And last but not least is a really interesting campaign being carried out by a number of young women from the Canadian Somali community who are walking from Calgary to Edmonton to raise money for the famine, but also to raise awareness.
I understand there's a Calgary restaurant that's quite involved too.
Yes, it's called La Breza restaurant. They actually held a dinner where proceeds from that dinner were going into the famine. Even before the young women started the walk, they were able to raise $10,785 just from their canvassing in Calgary before they even embarked on the walk. And the walk is supposed to symbolize the harsher walk by Somali refugees in Somalia all the way into Kenya, where they're in search of food and water. So they're emulating that walk and raising awareness about the famine in a small way, because the walk that is done by refugees takes days, sometimes weeks, and these young women are trying to raise awareness by walking themselves from Calgary to Edmonton, and the response has been really great by the public.
Where are they on the way? Are they between the 2 cities now?
No, actually, they were actually delayed, so they did a lot of work in Calgary. They're set to begin their walk tonight from Calgary, and they're set to finish their walk in Edmonton on Sunday afternoon in the legislature, in the Alberta legislature in Edmonton.
I know most Somali Canadians are now observing Ramadan. How does this help or complicate the effort to contribute?
Ramadan is traditionally a time of spiritual reflection, and also there's a strong tradition of charitable work during Ramadan. So in a way, for all Muslims in Canada and also the Somali community, it raises the level of charity among the community. So in that sense, it helps, because there's already more money that is being donated by the Somali Canadian community as well as the larger Muslim community towards the victims of this famine. The larger Muslim community has actually donated. They were able to raise in a single day in 2 different mosques. They were able to raise 80,000 in one mosque and about 100,000 in another mosque in Windsor. So efforts are going ahead. On the flip side, though, Ramadan, because this year the sunset is very late, it's very difficult to schedule formal fundraisers where people, rent a hotel and bring guests and so on. It's difficult to do that when people are fasting, or it's too late to schedule it after breaking of the fast. So that complicates the traditional organizing of regular fundraisers. However, on the flip side, it has also resulted in people giving through religious organizations or just donating directly to NGOs on the ground.
You were in Washington recently where a breakthrough occurred. Tell me what happened.
Well, the breakthrough occurred after I left, but we, Canadian Somali members, were pushing for the U.S. government to get back into the World Food Program portion that they used to take part in South and Central Somalia. The United States had the lion's share of funding for anti-famine programs in Somalia. So as Canadian Somalis, we were urging the U.S. government to get back into that situation. They had concerns, and the U.S. government had cut funding for a lot of anti-famine programs in South and Central Somalia last year due to concerns that the food was ending up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, which is a group that's allied with Al-Qaeda, and U.S. law bars U.S. taxpayer money to go into the hands of terrorists. The American Somali community followed up on that work, and they were able to meet with U.S. aid in the last few days. And yesterday, the United States officially lifted a lot of the restrictions around providing aid to South and Central Somalia, and now NGOs will have a freer hand at attacking the source of the problem. People have been focused on Dadaab and 80 kilometers inside Kenya. They don't realize that the epicenter of the famine is deep into Somalia. No one is physically there. There's been a few airdrops of food, but there is no presence, and a real presence of NGOs that have the expertise to deal with this. And the lifting of restrictions by the United States and announcement of more funding by the United States will assist those NGOs to get back into Somalia and actually tackle the problem at its source.
Any advice to other Canadians as to how they can best help?
Well, I think Canadians have been very generous, both the Canadian government and the Canadian public. We just had a very wealthy couple in Toronto announce a $2 million donation to the Red Cross for its anti-famine program. And that's so far the single largest individual donation to the Red Cross. I would urge Canadians to make their neighbors and their friends aware of this famine and do what they can to donate anything. Any amount is important. Even if they only donate a small amount will go a long way to assisting people on the ground.
Ahmed Hussein, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I was speaking with Ahmed Hussein, president of the Canadian Somali Congress, earlier today. Mr. Hussein said many people actually, are now waiting for the rains to return in October. But if they fail again, the situation in Somalia will become even more desperate. Incidentally, Step Up for Somalia, that's the 303-kilometer walk between Calgary and Edmonton that begins this evening. And on the site here, they're described as 7 Canadian Somali cousins, these 7 young women who will be walking in support of the people who are walking into Kenya in an effort to save their lives. So we'll have a link to that website on ours as well.